Wild card weekend is here, so let's get right to it with my money line picks and best bets. Once again, on the regular season, we finished 184 and 88 in the money line. We finished 59 for 89 with one push in best bets. For those of you that are new here, I will do every single money line pick for the postseason. Now, this week there are 6 wildcard games in best bets of the regular season. I usually take out of, the 14, 15, 16 games. I take 5 games, I make best bets, put a $5 parlay on them with the spread, see if we can win. We did win once this year throughout the regular season. That was week 3, but we were 4 or 5 times hitting 4 out of 5, and I have not had a losing week since week 7, so I will take it this week again because there are 6 wildcard games. I'm allowed to skip one of them. Let's start things off with my hometown, Cleveland Browns. They are favored by 2.5, led by Joe Flacco, Jerome Ford, the beat up offensive line, Myles Garrett leading the defense. The Browns are filled with injuries against the man that went to Ohio State, leading as a rookie and a rookie head coach, D'Amico Ryans, the Houston Texans to the postseason. I think the fact that Texans are dogs here by 2.5 points tells you something. These two teams met on Christmas Eve. Now, CJ Stroud did not play in that game. Case Keenum played in that game. But for the most part, until the fourth quarter, the Browns dominated that game. Amari Cooper had a huge game. Now, I do suspect this game to be a little bit closer. I think Houston will have a better plan on how to combat Cooper. They're going to force the Browns to run the football. We know what Joe Flacco has done with those deep passes since he's been instituted into the Browns quarterback position. We know CJ Stroud is going to make, a few more big plays than Case Keenum. I expect Noah Brown to potentially be back for this game. We saw Nico Collins in the big game against the Indianapolis Colts in week 18. So I think CJ Stroud would definitely make this a closer game. But the Titans' offensive line is not great. The Browns have one of the best defensive fronts and one of the best secondaries in the league. I think Jim Schwartz, a veteran defensive coordinator, will rattle CJ Stroud enough. I think the Browns can win this game, maybe something like 23-20. I think they do cover the 2.5 point spread. Then we go from the Dome in Houston on NBC to Peacock exclusive, the first ever Peacock exclusive game in what will excuse me, in what will be 0-degree weather in Kansas City. Dolphins, we know they struggle outside in the cold. They take on the Kansas City Chiefs. Now we know what the Chiefs have struggled with throughout this season. They don't have a deep vertical threat in the passing game. Outside of Rashid Rice and an old Travis Kelce, they're relying a ton on Isaiah Pacheco, the running back, and putting a ton of pressure on the shoulders of quarterback Patrick Mahomes. I do think the weather here favors the Chiefs. Now, Tyreek Hill obviously knows the Chiefs. He was there for years. He wants his revenge. The Dolphins do have a little bit of an advantage in this game, and that is the fact that during week 9, these two teams played. Now, that was in Germany. That was not in Kansas City, but the Dolphins, they did shut out the Chiefs in the second half of that game, and I believe it was one of the first games that Jalen Ramsey had. The problem is, though, Miami is beat up on the defensive side of the ball. They could be, they could be missing potentially up to 6 starters. And so I do believe the Chiefs are going to be able to run the football. I think it's going to be a little bit of a lower scoring game than you would suspect from these two teams. Sort of very similar to their first game in Germany. I could see Kansas City winning this, by like 21-17. I know it was 21-14 the last time. I think it's around that 4-point spread. Though I think Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, with them essentially having a bye week, with them just resting their starters last week against the Chargers, I think they will be good. They will be smart in the first half. Andy will have a plan to stop Tyreek Hill with Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator. I don't think Tua Tagovailoa is going to be able to make enough throws, especially if Jalen Waddle was still out, for the Dolphins to win this game. Steelers at Bills. Buffalo is favored by 10 points. I'm going to put it to you lightly. I think they just kill Pittsburgh. I'm taking Buffalo here. -10. I think Josh Allen and an explosive offense. So they could be missing Gabe Davis, which could be a factor. But we said ever since Buffalo fired offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey and went to Joe Brady as their play caller, the offenses look different. They're not as reliant on Stephon Diggs. They're not as Josh Allen reliant. They're using James Cook and Leonard Fournette and Latavius Murray in the running game. The defense, even though they've lost a lot of pieces, they are starting to complement because they are not on the field as often because Josh Allen has limited his turnovers. And I just don't think the Steelers, listen, I know Mason Rudolph, he did beat the Ravens backups. He did beat Cincinnati. He did beat Seattle to get Pittsburgh in this position. But without TJ Watt, and I know that they have Nate Herrenberg and Heinz Smith as other good pass rushers, but I just don't see how this pass rush gets to Buffalo that much. The Bills' offensive line has been playing a lot better as of late. I don't see how Pittsburgh's offense, which is an up-gun offense, outside if they get a couple turnovers on Josh Allen, if they force Josh Allen back to the pre-Joe Brady Josh Allen, the Josh Allen with Ken Dorsey, and not the Josh Allen with Brian Dable. If they run the football a ton with Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, ball control, Mason Rudolph doesn't make mistakes. Maybe they cover the 10 points. Maybe this is a closer game than we think, but I think this has potential in the cold weather to be a blowout in favor of Buffalo. This is my stay away game when it comes to the bets. Green Bay at Dallas. Dallas is favored by 7.5. And I have a feeling this game will be over by halftime, or it will be a very close game coming down to the final second. Green Bay is obviously very young on the offense side of the ball. They are the youngest team ever specifically to make the postseason. Their defense is not very good, and they've led by drama this year with Jair Alexander and a lot of injuries on that side of the ball. But Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur in this second half of the season are starting to figure out their offensive scheme. And they do have two very good running backs, A.J. Dillon, Aaron Jones. If they can get play action, if they can walk on Michael Parsons enough, if they can get some screens going, and if they can get the lead early and put pressure on Dallas, I think Green Bay could make this a real ball game. My concern from the Packers' perspective is, are you going to be able to stop this Cowboys offense? Because Dak, Tony Pollard, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, the tight end Ferguson, they've been putting up huge numbers this year. Dallas's offensive line is seemingly getting healthy. And if that Cowboy pass rush, Michael Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, obviously we know what Deron Bland and Stephon Gilmore do, leading the defensive back side of the football. Again, I think Dallas, there's a chance here they blow Green Bay out. There's also a chance the Packers make this very close. The line is 7.5, which to me is a little bit strange, which is why I'm going to stay away from this game. Next game, this is my upset of the week. I like the Rams +3 on the road. I know this is the first Lions home playoff game in literally 30 years. The last time they won the division was the NFC Central. They have never won the NFC North. It was the NFC Central in 1993. Jared Goff has played really well. But of course, Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford were traded for each other. And the reason why Sean McVay traded for Matthew Stafford is because he said Jared Goff could not process the information of his offense as fast as he wanted to, unlike Stafford, who of course is more of a veteran quarterback. Very similar styles. The Lions embody Dan Campbell as their head coach. Tough, physical, aggressive. They have two great backs. They have great receivers. They have a great tight end, though he may be out of this game because of the injury he suffered in week 18. And as I talked about on Tuesday, that could be costly potentially for the Lions if they don't have Sam Laporta. But in the end, Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay, Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald. Those may be the 4 best players, and they all belong in a Rams uniform. It's why I like Matthew Stafford to go into his former home and upset the Lions. And then finally, Philly going to Tampa. Philly is favored by 3 points on the road. A lot of people like the Tampa side here. I will remind you, Philly crushed Tampa on Monday Night Football in Week 3. They were one of the few teams this year to cover on Monday Night Football. We had a lot of upsets this year on Monday Night Football. Philly was one of the few teams to cover. I think that they will rely on that veteran leadership of Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson, Brandon Grant, Fletcher Cox, Jordan Malaya, DeAndre Swift. They will get the running game involved. A.J. Brown will play. Devontae Smith will play. They will have a counter to Tampa Bay's blitz, and I think Philadelphia will just find a way. And listen, all it takes is one, and we know run games travel, we know momentum travels, and we know in the playoffs it's about veteran leadership. You look at the veterans teams that we have picked in the playoffs this year. Rounds of excuse me. Rounds of a lot of veterans on their team. Kansas City, a lot of veterans on their team. Buffalo, a lot of veterans on their team. Dallas, a lot of veterans on their team. Rams, Eagles, these are veteran-laced teams. And Baker Mayfield, 1-1 in his playoff career. Jalen Hurts, his last road playoff game, he went to Tampa. He was embarrassed by that Tom Brady Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. I think they rewrite the script here. I think Philly defeats Tampa Bay. So if my predictions hold, that means Kansas City will go to Buffalo in another classic AFC divisional rematch, but this time will be in Buffalo. Or Cleveland will go to Baltimore, where they already beat the Ravens this year with Deshaun Watson. In the NFC, the Rams will go to San Francisco. Philly will go to Dallas. Meaning we could have as many as 3 divisional matchups on NFC divisional wildcard weekend. My 5 best bets for wildcard weekend of the 2023/2024 NFL playoffs. Browns -2.5 against Houston. Kansas City -4 against Miami. Buffalo -10 against Pittsburgh. Rams +3 against the Lions. And Philly -3 against Tampa. Again, the game I leave out, Dallas -7.5 against Green Bay. Like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brands World podcast right here on YouTube.